Welcome back to Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin here at our Restoration Nation. Today, we're back in one of our favorite neighborhoods in the South, the Quapaw Quarter in downtown Little Rock, Arkansas. Today, we're bringing you the Deane House. This house is listed on the National Register of Historic Places under criterion B, which is because of a person of historical significance, and we rarely get those with National Register listings. Usually the reason we see properties listed are under criterion A, which is because of the architectural significance of the home. So it's a little bit rare for us to have one under criterion B. So while Kevin shows you shots of the beautiful exterior of this Queen Anne Victorian home, I'm going to tell you about the person of significance that built and lived in this home.
The prominence of this house is associated with one of the leading figures in railroad, Colonel G.A.A. Deane. Gardiner Andrus Armstrong Deane was born in Franklin, Massachusetts, July the 21st of 1840. At the outbreak of the Civil War, he enlisted in the 3rd Iowa Cavalry on August 23rd of 1861 as a bugler. By 1863, he was promoted to captain, and on May the 9th of 1864, he was promoted to lieutenant colonel, commanding the 60th U.S. Colored Infantry. He was honorably discharged from the United States Forces at Little Rock on October the 16th of 1865. After the war, in 1867, Deane married Eliza J. Margot in St. Joseph, Missouri. The colonel then became a farmer and a horse breeder. During the 1880s, Deane was employed as an engineer in charge of construction by the Union Pacific Railroad, thus beginning his association with railroading, which he pursued for the rest of his life. In December of 1891, Colonel Deane was named Land Commissioner in Arkansas for the St. Louis, Iron Mountain, and Southern Railroad and the Little Rock and Fort Smith Railroad. At this time, he moved his family to Little Rock. Through the many friendships he'd made in railroading and the manner in which he conducted the railroad's business, Deane was elected to the Board of Directors of the Iron Mountain on June 25th of 1909 and retired from the board January 23rd of 1913.
Well, now that you've learned all about the fascinating life of Mr. Deane, who built this house, we're going to take you inside and show you the architectural details that make this home so spectacular. But I do want to start here on the front porch. Now, this is my favorite element of the exterior of this house. I've loved this house for decades. And why? Because we have this element right here. Many people would call this a turret, but it's not. We've talked about this dozens of times before, but if you're new here, you have turrets and towers in American Queen Anne style homes. A tower runs all the way foundation to the roof line of the second floor. A turret starts at the roof line of the second floor and moves upward. So in the Deane house, we have a tower. Let's look at these columns. Now, normally in a Queen Anne style home, you would see a turned column, similar to the way that these balustrades look here on the front porch, but instead we have a thick column with a Corinthian capital. This shows us that this house was built during a bit of a transitional phase between the true high Queen Anne style and neoclassical revival. Welcome inside the entryway of the Deane house. Now, the thing I love about these small cottage style Victorian era homes. You have your grand homes that are going to have lots and lots of individual spaces for individual purposes. So in a very grand home, you would have had formal receiving parlor where you would have received your guest, and then you would have an informal family parlor. Well, in a cottage of this size, and yes, I'm using the term cottage very loosely. For this era, this is a cottage, even though to us, this is a magnificent home. In a cottage of this size, the entryway would have been used as your formal receiving area. So you see this is a huge space with beautiful, highly ornamented details, like this absolutely stunning quarter-sawn oak fireplace behind me. It's got the beautiful volutes, the egg and dart detail. This space is meant to impress. Gorgeous etched glass on our light fixture, and that tower that I showed you from the outside, we have the tower space on the inside. And one of the things I absolutely am in love with this tower is that it retains its original curved glass in all of these tower windows. If you've been here any period of time with us and you've been on any of these tours with me, you know that my favorite thing in these historic homes are the pocket doors that would have shut off this space, A, to make it completely private so it can be a private family room, and B, in the wintertime to conserve your heat so you could have kept your family room nice and toasty warm with just the warmth from the fireplace. We have two sets of fully functioning pocket doors. I love that sound in this space. And then I know you're going to comment about the light fixture in here. It's absolutely stunning, but this is a 1930s Victorian revival. It's in the 1930s and 40s, we had this crazy period of Victorian revival, which is funny when you think about it, because they were only about 40 years removed from the last phase of the Victorian era, all of this high ornamentation. So they had this high ornamentation era, then they went into this arts and crafts era, which really pars down the design, pulled into simplicity. And in the 30s and 40s, we see the Victorian revival era where high ornamentation comes back into vogue. We see that happening right now in modern architecture. Of course, we had the 50s and 60s where we did lots of crazy things with architecture. We parsed down into the uber modern, almost brutalist era that lasted through the 90s and early 2000s. We had the McMansion, and now we see people returning back to these really handcrafted homes with curated interiors and exteriors. So it's coming, I promise. Watch for it. Our second Victorian revival era. Look at these gorgeous stained glass windows. They're not original to the house, but don't they fit beautifully into the spaces? And they give a lot of incredible privacy for these large front windows. But just to let you know, these are really Art Nouveau style windows. So a little bit later than the house, probably 1910. And they were, I can almost guarantee you, manufactured in England. These were wildly popular and they were everywhere in modest English middle class homes. England didn't have much of a middle class up until the early 20th century. Their middle class drug a little bit behind the development of the American middle class. And so when the English middle class really developed and they started building homes, even their terraced homes, a lot of this stained glass was manufactured and put into those homes as little elements, little nods to their new socioeconomic status. And they've been installed here and they look absolutely beautiful. And you'll see a few others as we go through the house. Here we are in the dining room. You know, always one of my favorite spaces in these beautiful homes. Over this bay window, you'll see another one of those beautiful English stained glass windows. And above me, another gorgeous chandelier. Now, this one could fool a less trained eye because it looks more appropriate to the Victorian era. But do you know how I know this is a reproduction chandelier? How I know this is not a gasolier, which would have been in this home in the first place? There are no keys for gas. If this was a period chandelier that was originally gas converted to electric, Here at the base of each of these sconces, there would be a little key where the gas would have been turned on and lit and then turned off when not in use. And those are not present. So again, probably a 1930s Victorian revival piece. I love these sconces on the walls. Now, these are period. I don't know if they're period original to the house, but they are original to the period of the house. This would have originally been an oil lamp. I don't know if it's whale oil, but we know that it's originally an oil lamp because it has the knob that would have turned the wick to raise. Now it's been converted into electric and they hang here beautifully. But I want to show you these little prisms. They're purple now, but you can see some of them are less purple than others. Some of them are crystal with a hint of purple. That's because originally these would have been clear crystal. And as they're exposed to UV light over 110 years, they turn purple because of the chemical makeup inside the crystal. This is what's being now used as a bedroom. But looking at the architecture of the home and the way that we have this little bathroom sort of tucked into a corner in a space that might have connected to one of the main halls originally, I wonder if this wasn't initially meant to be a formal sitting room. I'm not sure. And the reason I say that is because we have this highly decorative, ornate period mantle, egg and dart molding, dot and dash, and then these beautiful glazed tiles. This is the only fireplace that retains its original tile work. The rest of them, the tile work is gone, probably gone for the last, 75, 80 years. But we have the original glazed tiles in here, and this is a very ornamental mantle with the overmantle for a private space. But maybe it was always a private space. Maybe it was always the bedroom of the owners of the house, and they wanted a fancy mantle in their bedroom. Let's talk about this staircase. Obviously, it doesn't go in the house. Obviously, this is a much later addition to this property, probably in the 1960s. But this is what, to me, makes historic homes so incredibly fascinating. As homes evolve over time, we have additions to properties. And sometimes those additions have historic value of their own and become part of the story of the house, and they show its evolution. So this staircase, though completely inappropriate for a Queen Anne style Victorian era home, has now historic merit of its own because it is probably close to 60 years old. So were it me, I would love this staircase. I would embrace it in this property and allow it to continue to be part of the story of this home and its evolution over time. Look at the size of this kitchen. Now, obviously, it's in need of some updates. Kitchens are the rooms that are going to date the fastest in any home. I guarantee if you put a brand new, beautiful kitchen in today, in 10 years, it's going to look dated and like it needs to be redone. So obviously, the kitchen could use a little updating, but it is absolutely monumentally huge, which is a rare, rare thing to find in a home of this period. So it's a real treasure. Now, one of the things they've done to this home is they've enclosed part of the back porch, and I want to show you an incredible feature that we have over here. Come with me. I love this space. Obviously, originally a Four Seasons room, a back porch. You can see this chamfered column here that's very typical to the build period of this house. But you see these amazing windows? These windows are an incredible innovation. Watch, I have to stretch. And they fold out. Now, currently, today, they have these little hinges down here. Now, these hinges have Phillips head screws in them, which to me says these are not original hinges. I imagine that originally these windows would have unlocked and been taken out for the summer. And in the winter months, they would have been put back in and locked up tight. So you would have had in the summer a wonderful breezy back porch area that was still enclosed and screened off to protect you from insects. And in the winter, close it up and you still have sunshine. Probably a space, if I'm just guessing, this is purely hypothetical, to bring your outdoor plants in and keep your beautiful greenhouse in this space. As you probably know, having flora inside your home was a big deal in this period, so would have been the perfect spot for that. We hope you've enjoyed this look inside the Deane home today, this beautiful Queen Anne style Victorian home. Now, I'm going to give you a little codicil. Again, if you've been here for any length of time, you've heard me say this before, but for our friends across the pond who are going to have a nervous breakdown when they hear me referring to this as a Queen Anne style home, please know that Queen Anne in the UK and Queen Anne in America are two completely different styles. It has nothing to do with your Queen Anne. It is an architectural style that was developed by British architect Richard Norman Shaw in the mid-19th century and exploded in popularity over here in the United States. So that's what I'm talking about when I say Queen Anne here. This home does happen to be for sale, but I want to remind you, Kevin and I are not real estate agents. We do not represent this home. We do not guarantee this home in any way. If you think this home is one you might be interested in purchasing, there is a Zillow link in the description below where you can get all the information on square footage, bedrooms, bathrooms, and how to get in touch with the realtor. We also want to remind you we have our spring tour of homes coming up in Natchez, Mississippi, March 12th, 13th, and 14th, and 19th, 20th, and 21st. 14 incredible homes, 13 of which are private and are never open to the public. We'll be open for those 2 weekends only. We'll also have a slew of incredible special events for you. And we have English aristocracy coming, the Earl and Countess of Sandwich from Mapperton House in England. If you know Julie and Luke, you follow their channel, they will be with us in Natchez on March the 12th, kicking off our spring tour of homes. You can buy your tickets at livinghistorynatchez.com. We hope to see you there. Join us next time on Preservation Travels with Lane and Kevin.